What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a lovely day today and I hope it gets even better from watching this video. Today we're chatting all about little secret tips, tiny habits to glow up your finances and enter your rich girl era. Just get really knowledgeable about finances so you know what you're talking about, you know what you're doing. We're going to be covering so many things from your money mindset to investing to budgeting, saving, emergency funds, sinking funds, all the things. A few years ago, I was completely financially illiterate. So when I make these kinds of videos, I like to make them very easy to understand. So literally if you're starting from scratch, you're welcome here. We're going to explain everything very easily so that you don't feel stupid, because that is not the point. Okay, and everyone has to start somewhere, so don't you worry. Okay, you don't have to be intimidated. We're gonna get through everything. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Nika, welcome. I make videos all about self-improvement and I like to make them very actionable. Here are the tips, the tricks, so you can actually create the life that you want. So if that works for you, I would love for you to stick around and subscribe and check out my social media if you want to see more of my personal life. And without further ado, let's jump straight into it. We've got lots to cover. The first thing we're going to talk about is your money mindset, because I feel like that's such a pillar when it comes to creating that foundation for your amazing financial future. Obviously, if your mindset around money is really negative, if you have a lot of stress around money, if you think money is evil, etc., it's going to be really hard for you to create the life that you want. Financially speaking, you're going to have a lot of resistance towards actually doing the things that you need to do to get to where you want to go. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to write down all of your negative kind of limiting beliefs around money. So this can be things like money is the root of all evil, people who are rich are selfish and greedy. Of course, you can add to this list as you go on, but then you're going to start to reframe them one by one. And you don't want to do this all in one day. You want to do this one at a time. I honestly wouldn't do more than one per week. Obviously, it depends on you, but you can get easily overwhelmed with these things. And also you need time to digest this mental shift. Just changing one is going to make a big difference, trust me. So here is your step-by-step process of how to reframe these beliefs. So the first thing you're going to write is, what is your emotional payoff of keeping this belief? So if I believe money is the root of all evil, my emotional payoff, for example, could be that I don't really have to go after what I want because I kind of have an excuse. Because if I make that money, that means I will be one of the evil people. I don't want that. So that is a nice little cushiony excuse for me to not put myself out there, to not go after my goals, because money is the root of all evil anyway, so I don't want that. Then you're gonna write proof of why you believe this. Number one, my family used to always tell me this. Number two, I met this Chad guy who was a rich and he thought the whole world revolved around him, and he was super greedy, selfish, whatever. And then you're gonna go through each point, you're gonna dissect it and prove yourself wrong. Obviously this is gonna be very personal, but for example, with the family thing. So maybe my family used to always say that about all the rich people, even though it probably does not apply to every single one, to keep us where we were, to feel good about where we actually were and feel like we're the good ones and the righteous ones and everyone with money is bad and evil, which is probably not the case. The Chad guy probably would have been an asshole whether he had money or not. You go step by step and you expand on it as much as you can so that you really shift something. Next, you're gonna write the belief that you would rather believe. So let's say my belief would be money is actually just a tool. What someone does with it is based on their character, their upbringing, whatever, their personality. Money in itself doesn't have a power to change someone. It might bring out certain qualities, but money is not the problem here, it's the person behind it. Then you're gonna write evidence and proof of why this new belief is true. So let's say you actually met quite a few people that were actually really lovely and very giving. There's so many organizations that do so much good where people with money donate to all the time, yada, yada, yada. And then lastly, you're gonna write the emotional payoff of this new belief. First of all, is that I can now view people as they are and judge them not because they have or don't have money, but based on the quality of their character. Also, I can now go after what I want because I know it's not gonna make me evil, etc. So just write as many things as you can think of. And that is basically the whole process of you changing these negative beliefs. The next tip, obviously budgeting, that is something we cannot not talk about when it comes to your money glow up. I really feel like, again, that's just another pillar of your foundation. It teaches you so much about First of all, where your money is actually going, what the real situation, the reality of your finances is. I know that's scary to look at, but it's so important. You can't fix a problem if you don't know what the problem is in the first place. And then it's basically your guide of where you're gonna put your hard-earned money. Of course, you might want to limit yourself in certain areas, and the whole point is that you can save more money that's gonna go towards your emergency fund, maybe a down payment on a house, maybe investing, whatever it might be. It's gonna create those healthy habits that you're gonna have for the rest of your life. I made a whole video about this where I go in detail about how to set up your budget and everything you need to know. Plus, we talk about building your emergency fund, which I feel like should be your first step. I'm gonna link that down below so you can check it out. Again, it's made for complete beginners, so if you are like, where the hell do I start? Watch that. I'm very type A, okay? I love systems, organization, Notion templates, the whole thing. So for me, it really helps to have a really nice budget. I used to just use Notion ones that I made for free, but right now I'm using one by Coplenty. What is it called? I'm using the Yearly Budget 3.0. This is not sponsored, by the way. I found this on my own on YouTube actually, and I love it so much. It's so aesthetically pleasing. It has so many graphs. It's very like automated. You just put in your expense. It does everything else for you. It's so nice. The girl who made it actually reached out to me because she saw me using it, so she gave me a little code. It's Nika 10 for 10% off. You don't have to buy this, obviously. You can literally do it in your journal if you want to, but I love to have a really good, easy to use budget, and this one is my favorite that I've ever used. I genuinely get so happy anytime I just look at it. I have some issues probably. If at the moment your spending habits are a little bit out of control, or let's say this past month you spent like way too much money and you just want a little reset, an amazing idea is to do a low spend month. So let's say in October, you're gonna do a low spend month and you're just gonna spend money on your absolute essentials. So obviously, I don't know what your absolutely necessary expenses are. It's gonna vary from person to person. For me, for example, therapy is involved in this, going to a workout class is involved with this because it makes me feel a lot better, but I'm not gonna be shopping for clothes or makeup or even takeout or eating out, stuff like that. So you need to determine what your low spend month is gonna look like and then stick to it again for a whole month. It is such a good reset. You really notice like your tendencies. It's a really good wake-up call. And I actually made a whole video about how to change your spending habits, and I included a lot of other tips along with this one. So if you want to check that out after this video, I'll link it down below as well. In the budgeting video, I talk a lot about saving and building your emergency fund and all of that. So again, you can check that out, but some very important basics. Open up a high yield savings account. That's basically a savings account with higher interest rates. So you're gonna make more money by your money just sitting in your savings account. I will never understand people who just save by like leaving their money in their bank account. I cannot do that. Like if there is money in my bank account, I'm gonna spend it. So I have a separate savings account, and then you can either automate your savings that are going to be the same every single month. If you have a very stable income, it's the same every single month. You know how much money you need throughout the month. And let's say you have 150 euros left at the end of the month. You can schedule an automated transfer at the beginning of the month when you get paid. So it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. It happens automatically. You don't need to think about it. And that money is not even there for you to spend. If you're someone like me whose income kind of varies month to month, it's obviously really helpful to figure out your budget so that you know how much money you need throughout the month. And then you can put the rest into your savings account whenever you get paid. It's so helpful to save before you spend. So you put money in your savings account first, and then you can spend the rest, whatever that amount is for you. This one is kind of random, and I know some of you are gonna be like, obviously, Nika, hello. But this was not obvious to me, okay? And it is to take advantage of what your bank offers. Whether that's travel miles, different offers for hotels, a high yield savings account, as I've mentioned. Like there are so many things that certain banks offer. I really didn't take advantage of this because my Slovenian bank doesn't really offer anything, to be honest. But I did open a new account at an online bank and they offer so many things. I, for example, found a lot cheaper hotels on there than anywhere else, really cheap airport lounges. There's also a lot of options for savings. Like for example, I'm sure this has a name, I honestly don't know it, but let's say you spend 4.70 euros on a coffee, and then you can turn on this savings option where it rounds up the price and saves the rest. So we spend 4.70 euros on a coffee, it rounds it up to 5, and it automatically saves the 30 cents. So that is like a cool little way that you can save more money without even noticing. And it's just worth it to check what your bank actually offers, because I honestly didn't do it for so long, and I would have opened that online bank account a lot sooner if I knew that my bank literally offers nothing and so many other banks do. So just check that out. This again might be very basic for you, but it was not for me. Another big tip when it comes to creating your positive money mindset, let me know if you want a whole video about this, by the way, I would love to make it. But an amazing thing to do is to really visualize what this is gonna look like. So I personally like to work in shorter increments instead of visualizing like 10 years from now. That's so hard for me to do because I'm like, I have no idea what my life is gonna look like then. So I like to imagine maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years, something like that. Where do I wanna be financially in 2 years? So how much money do I wanna have? Do I want to be investing? How much I want to have saved? Like kind of specific numbers and goals. And that gets me excited, and I have a goal to work towards, but it doesn't really help me to create like a full vision. So what I like to do is to fully imagine who this version of me is going to be that has reached these financial goals, and how my daily routine is going to look like, how my lifestyle is going to look like, how I show up, my relationships, maybe like knowledge that I'm going to have. That puts everything into perspective, and it's so much easier for me to imagine, and it gives you that like emotional reason for wanting to work towards that goal, which is so important. Another thing I really like to write down is what I'm gonna be giving once I have this amount of money. So maybe that would be, I wanna take my mom on a nice trip to somewhere she's always wanted to go. Or maybe you and your friends go out for drinks and you can just really excitedly say like, drinks are on me guys, let's have a blast. Anything. And then you can create a vision board to help you visualize this lifestyle and this version of you. And you can also ask ChatGPT to write like your perfect day in the life. Let's talk about sinking funds. This is something I added later. I didn't want to overwhelm myself at the beginning, so I just focused on budgeting and saving, putting my money towards my emergency fund. And then once I had that figured out, I started adding other things. So it's totally up to you. But a sinking fund is basically you saving up for something specific, like maybe that's a car, or maybe it's for Christmas gifts or birthday gifts for the year, or your summer vacation. So you set a goal of how much you want to save, and you give yourself a time frame, a few months, however long you need, and you decide how much money you're going to put towards this sinking fund every single month. Obviously, it helps to have a separate place to put this money, but that has been really, really helpful. I'm using it right now for like Christmas gifts, so I've already started a little while ago. So now I have all the money for Christmas gifts pretty much almost saved up, and it just makes it so much easier, so you're not like scrambling. Once it comes around, you can really prepare for those bigger purchases. So that way, every single dollar or euro made has its exact place where it's gonna go. So that's why people have like a paycheck routine. So when they get paid, they distribute their money into these different sinking funds, savings funds, etc. Now let's quickly talk about investing. I want to make this very short because I plan to make a whole video about it, and I know you guys have been asking, so it's gonna come, I promise. I just want to open your mind to the idea of even investing, because this was such like a big thing for me to come around to, because I used to always think like it's so risky, like I don't know what's gonna happen to this money, like it's not really in my control once I put it into the investment that I choose, like it's just there and like I don't know what's gonna happen, and that was so scary to me. So once what I'm about to explain was explained to me, I was like, okay, I can like open my mind to the idea and start researching and see if this is for me. So investing, if done right, obviously keeps your money safe from inflation. Obviously inflation is like a buzzword, we hear it all the time, but honestly, if you asked me what inflation was like 5 years ago, I would not be able to tell you. So if that's where you're at, I totally get it. It's okay. Here's a very simple explanation of inflation, okay? So let's say you go to the grocery store and someone gives you a 10 euro budget. So let's say right now, if you go to the grocery store and you have 10 euros, you can maybe buy 3, maybe 4 items. And 10 years ago, for example, with those same 10 euros, you could have bought maybe 10, 12 items. Basically the same amount of money, those same 10 euros, the value of that goes down with inflation. So you can afford less with that same amount. Editing me here, when I was filming this, I legit forgot to finish my point. So here it is. Basically, inflation goes up by around 2 to 3% each year. Let's go with 3% to be on like the cautious side. So let's say you have a regular savings account which has like 1% interest rates, which right now is considered like good. So let's say you put $10,000 in that savings account and you leave it there for 10 years. So the amount in your savings account grew a little bit in those 10 years because of that 1% interest rate. But because of inflation, what you can actually buy with that money will be 20 to 25% less than what you could buy today. So basically the prices would have gone up more than your savings grew. But let's say you decide to invest, let's say in an index fund like an S&P 500. We'll get to that, by the way. Same thing. So $10,000 for 10 years. You leave it there, you don't touch it. So with your money just sitting there, it will be earning an average of like 7 to 10% per year. So your $10,000 could grow to almost $20,000 in those 10 years. So that means you would have completely outrun inflation and make more money, obviously. There are obviously different ways you can invest. You can invest in the stock market, in crypto, for example, real estate, etc. But the easiest, the most recommended and sure way to invest is to invest in index funds in the stock market. So when you're investing in the stock market, you can either choose an individual stock, so that would be buying a very small percentage of a company like Disney, for example, or you can invest in an index fund that tracks a whole market. So a really good example of this is the S&P 500. You may have heard of this if you've done any research about investing. It's basically an index fund that contains the top 500 US companies. So because we know that the US economy grows, that is obviously going to be a much safer, also a more straightforward, easier way to invest than you basically choosing individual stocks like the Disney stock or the Apple stock. That kind of investing requires a lot more knowledge than just investing in index funds. And there's a lot more great index funds than just the S&P 500. That's just an example. So we can obviously cover more of this in the investment video, but that was the first thing that was explained to me that honestly opened my eyes and my mind to actually potentially investing. So I wanted to include that here. But let me know if you have any questions about investing, anything you want to know, so I can make that video tailored to you, so I actually answer your questions and talk about everything that you want to know. Last but not least is to just be aware of lifestyle inflation, which is basically as you make more money, people tend to spend more money. So you get a raise and then all of a sudden you need a new apartment, a new car because you can afford it. But then your spending goes up simultaneously as you're earning. So you're not really saving more, investing more, putting more towards your down payment for a house, whatever your goals are. So just be aware of that. It definitely happened to me and I had to really reel myself in and go back to the drawing board, check my budget and see where I've been overspending. So it's again just something to keep in mind so you can make the most out of your hard-earned money. Alrighty guys, that is it for this video. I know it was very long. I can honestly talk about money and finances for days. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Check out the other 2 financial videos I've made before that I mentioned. They're going to be linked in the description box. And if you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to stick around and subscribe. And again, check out my social media if you want to connect more. And thank you so much for watching and being here, and I'm going to see you very, very soon.